Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach. What is happening, guys? Hope you're well out there. It's the weekend, hottest 100 day. Probably not posting this on the day, but nonetheless, we've got a cheeky little barbecue going on later. A few beverages, listen to some of the countdown, which is, I've been listening to a bit of it this afternoon, but probably more so just tuning in for your top 30 kind of operation. And watch the women's final tonight as well. So, look, we've got the midfield big dogs today, and we're ranking them in terms of these averages: 120 between the 115 119 mark, 110 to 114, 105 109. Feel like we really need minimum 105 plus from our premiums, and let's face it, a lot of these guys you're hoping for 110 plus at least, and then a thanks but no thanks for the guys that maybe it's role, maybe it's age, probably injury more so. We're just going to pass on them for this year. We talk a lot about breakout contenders and finding value, but I sort of feel like this part of the game is underrated. Just nailing your premiums and getting them right. You know, the biggest headaches you'll ever have, and particularly in the midfield, the most points are on offer through the middle. So you don't want to spend big cash and get a guy that doesn't quite live up to that money. And there's nothing worse than having a headache about a premium 4 weeks into your season. Nothing worse. So look, I'll take a look at these in a moment. We'll split this one into 2 parts, I reckon, because probably try and keep this ranking video to about half an hour, and then do part 2 another time. But yeah, look, I've got a little story for you as well. Shorty got himself in a little bit of mischief the other night, not of that variety. Come on now, but I went down to Fairhaven. I've only got a few days left of holidays. We go back on Tuesday. To be honest, probably looking forward to it. It will be good. Just get back in the routine, a bit more fulfillment throughout the day. But I've been really wanting to just go down along the coast, open up the back of the territory, and just have that classic, looking out of the back of your car to the ocean, listen to some music, smashing some food. Just really get that picturesque vibe. So I thought, you know what? I've got a few busy nights coming up. Thursday's the night. Let's go. Let's rock and roll. So I drive down, get there at a good time. Sunset's looking handy. We set up. We got the doona in the back. We got, pillows. We got some biscuits. I've got a little chalky shake, mate. Things are good. Life's good. I'm looking out at the ocean, and I'm literally just listening to a podcast, some tunes. I'm like, gee, this ain't bad. This is pretty cool, actually. Pretty lucky to live this part of the world. How good is this? I got so enthralled in just chilling and the vibes. I'd had the music on, running through the car, and there was probably a light on because the back of the boot was up, so there's a little light. But I was like, come on, You hear about cars running the battery dead, but, I'm only going to be here like 45 minutes. Come on now, surely not. And honestly, I didn't even give it much of a thought. I was just cruising. I was like, we'll be fine. So I'm looking out, I'm just chilling. Sun's, pretty much set. And then, boom, just how I'm hearing all this beeping. And I'm like, oh, shit. Look at my dashboard. Beep, 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 beep. Low battery. I'm like, okay, all right, surely could be in a bit of trouble here. But I'm thinking, we've got to it immediately. It's just low battery, not dead battery. So I go, all right, I've pushed the friendship a bit hard here. You've rolled the dice. Rookie mistake. Go to start it up because I wasn't planning on leaving, but I thought I should probably see if this is going to start, because if it doesn't, we got a longer stint here. Starts it up. Nah, nothing happening. Just when it's trying to go, nah. And I'm thinking, boy, it's probably about 9 o'clock by this point. I thought, it's not ideal. I thought I'll give it 10 minutes. Who knows? I don't know cars. Maybe 10 minutes will help. Started to do some Googling. Does time help if you're showing up this on the dashboard? Nah. Time's not going to do it, mate. And I was like, okay. Tried about 10, 15 minutes later. Nah. Turn the key. I actually put a TikTok up of this, so if you want to see some of the live footage, mate, you can go for it. But yeah, I was trying my best. Wasn't happening. It was 45 minutes away from home, friends and family. I thought, gee, it's about 9:30 at this point. And I thought, look, RACV, you're going to have to get called here. So I've called them up, and I think it was definitely dark, 9:30. And I was like, jeez, I've just ruined the on-call bloke's night here. And they're like, yep, no worries, we'll be there about an hour. I was like, oh, jeez, all right, you've put your foot in it now, shorty. Because I was thinking, maybe maybe they just got someone, down the coast, or maybe they're pretty quiet, maybe it's half an hour away, but I was like, shit, an hour. So, yeah, there's a lesson learnt there for Shorty. It took about an hour. The bloke was great. Got there like 10:30 or so. The battery was actually dead. Like he said, I can jumpstart it, but I've actually run a couple of tests. Your battery does need replacing. It's a fairly new car, so maybe, I don't know how long that battery's been in there for. So, yeah, replaced the battery. Off we went, but I was like, wowee. This chill, relaxing night quickly turned into a bit of drama for Shorty, but lesson learned, You're still learning lessons even at this age, guys. And some would say, Shorty, you're an idiot, mate. What are you doing? Of course the battery was going to be drained, but, I was just chilling. I'm just a chill guy. Didn't really think it through. Some people would say I don't think a lot through, but look, these things happen. So give me your car stories, give me some advice, but hopefully you enjoyed that, because it wasted a bit of my time. But honestly, I thought, well, look, if I'm of all days that I'm going to get this kind of action going on, may as well be a day that you don't have work the next day and you're in no rush and you're pretty relaxed. So yeah, not too bad. But look, let's have a look at our mid premiums here. Like I said, we'll probably get through maybe half of these guys. I'll probably try and keep this to about half-hour video. But let's go for Noah Anderson first. And he's a really interesting fella. I mean, he, as most of us would know, dominates on the home deck. But elsewhere, really struggles. His home ground numbers compared to his away numbers are nuts. And that's just fantastic. We love when the internet just conks out mid-video, don't we? Oh, it's like my car all over again. What the fuck's going on here? Yeah, nice. Cool. What's going on here? Unsupported, is it? That's just bullshit. All right, we'll pause this. We'll see what's going on. God, technology just does my head in. All right. Sometimes I just don't know what goes on with this tech, man. I've got no clue. But we're back. Noah Anderson. Let's take a look at these numbers, shall we? And he's a guy that is a bit of a class act. He's long averaged over 100 with just slow incremental builds in terms of his average year on year. His ceiling is outrageous. He'll go 150 like just for fun. 155, then a 50, 151. Okay week, then a 70, 149, 55, 150. It's bizarre. Now, without going into the absolute depths of it, because that's probably for a longer style video, clearly the trend is gets 42, gets a tag. Gets 38, gets a tag. It's clear that he is not capable at this point, or at least last year, he doesn't like dealing with the taggers. And I think Matt Rowell's not going to draw the tag much because he doesn't damage like Anderson, and Rowell's sometimes doing defensive jobs himself. Miller is no longer the absolute guy in there. It is Noah Anderson, who, of all their midfielders, has that ability to hurt you on the outside. I could see this guy going 110 plus at certain stages of his career. And we've seen players before learn and develop their craft to handle a tag. And it's a difficult thing when you first become the main guy and you get a bit of attention, which I think Anderson is currently feeling. But at some stage, I feel like they break through. For me, I don't have the confidence to say it'll be this year yet. I'm going to put him in the 105 to 109. Probably closer towards that 109. But yeah, I think he's capable of going big time because he's got that ceiling. He dominates at home. It's just a matter of whether he can lift that floor a bit and just find ways. We all get tagged from time to time. Back in Shorty's days of racking up so many touches in the back pocket. Oh, yeah, taggers would come straight to me. But, it does happen. I think he'll work on it. He's still young. What would he be, like 23 or something? He's nearly 24. So give him time. He'll be right. But for now, we're just chucking him in that category. Next up, Marcus Bontempelli. Feel like we don't have to muck around too much with that. We'll have a quick look at the numbers just to blow some wind up Bont's ass. But look, he's a superstar. And isn't it funny how, like, I think we shouldn't pigeonhole guys because players develop and players work into their prime of their career. I remember when he burst out in 2018, 2015, and then he had a couple of years where he just couldn't get beyond 110. And people were saying, oh, he doesn't win enough of the footy, rah, rah. And then we've seen 110 ever since, and then he's graduated to 120 pluses. So, look, there's every chance. I mean, to average 120 plus 3 years in a row is quite the feat. So he could average like 118 or something like that. But nonetheless, we don't have to bang on about it too much. The guy's a gun, probably the best player in the comp, certainly in the conversation. And, certainly deserves to be in the 120 plus mark. Andy Brayshaw is a really interesting guy that I've seen pop up in a few teams. In fact, I feel like he's in 10% of sides, and if he's in your side, I'd love to hear your reasoning why. Because I am a Brayshaw fan. Let's not get confused about that. I really do like him, but to me, he's just a bit of that nice, consistent player who we know what we're going to get. And that's fantastic. But at that price tag, I reckon it's in the numbers in front of us. He's gone 107, basically 112, 109, basically 110. Look, like we said before, sometimes we see, like Bontempelli, we see guys really pick up their absolute prime and take it next level in their mid to late 20s. And you could argue Brayshaw is coming into that. But he's not cheap, clearly. We're not looking for cheapies in the forward premiums. But my biggest drawback on him is I just think he's going to average 110. There's nothing wrong with that. But, take it or leave it. If that's what you like, go for your life. Is there more upside to pick someone like, say, for example, you may have seen how much I love, say, Davies Uniacke or Tom Green. Guys around a similar price. But in my mind, they're fellas that, if it all clicks, they can go 115 plus. For different reasons, those players, but they are dynamic, and we'll talk about them more later. Brayshaw, I just think, is that honest citizen, tackles hard, finds plenty of the footy, both inside and outside, consistent as the day is long. But is he just going to average 107 to 112, 113 for his whole career, which is bloody fantastic? But I just wonder, you might be like, hey, surely that's fine. I'll take a 111. That's fine. Don't have to worry about him. Or do you look at a guy and say maybe it's a Tom Green who, we feel like could be one of the best scorers in the game if it really comes together? Or, I'm biased, but Davies Uniacke, I think just Chris Judd qualities. So for me, and I don't want to be critical of him because there's nothing wrong with it, I'm putting him in the 110 to 114. I think he'll average slightly better than last year. But like I said, Anderson's closer to the 109. Brayshaw's closer to the 110. I think, it's 110, 111 for me. Super consistent. I just don't think he's got the weapons to take it 115 plus. And hey, maybe we're getting greedy, but that's about where I see him. Next up, I'm testing my eyes here, but that is Zack Butters. Probably should have known they're in alphabetical order, but again, not one that I'm going to spend a stack of time on because he speaks for himself. You can pick him with confidence. I've seen him in a stack of teams. Again, gone are the days where we'd worry about his body or we'd worried about all that. He really came of age last year. Probably the last 2 years, to be fair, but fantastic numbers. Look, it's not easy to average 120 plus. It's not easy. So I'm putting him in the 115 to 119 range. I think, again, in that top end of that range. He'll be in and around 120, but yeah, I think he's certainly an absolute jet. Love watching him play. It's a safe pick. You can pick him and be very confident that he'll deliver exactly what you need for that price. Next up, we've got Paddy Cripps, and he's the guy that I probably compare Tom Green to a bit. Someone that we always talk about as an absolute gun of the competition, but it hasn't always been reflected in his SuperCoach numbers. Real roller coaster, hard to get a read on. Again, like Tommy Green, handballs a bit, not always the cleanest, but an absolute beast around the contest. And look at these numbers. They're interesting reading, aren't they? Like he was a star from early days, but he's at averages in the high 90s. He's pushed 120. He's been 110 plus. But yeah, he's been a hard one to get a read on as to where he actually sits. Like, say if we look at Bontempelli before, that was consistent 110 plus, then graduated to 120. Cripps has been a bit all over the shop and sometimes has been a real difficult one to get a read on. So for me, I know he's a Brownlow medalist, but I don't think I've considered him once. And he was a guy that, if you've been a long time watcher of this channel, I was obsessed with him. I had the biggest man crush on him for a long time. But it just found to me that he was inconsistently good, if that makes sense. As a footballer, he's pretty damn consistent. He doesn't let you down. But as a scorer, real interesting. The real change up in average numbers. Like, you know, I think a lot of us had him in 2021 when he had that down year. Well, we had him in 2022 when he was at a nice price. And then he dropped back down 23, and then boom, he's back up to 110. So, such a hard one to get an absolute grasp on. I'm chucking him in the 110 to 114, but yeah, happy to play around him. I love him. I love watching him. Gee, when he's on song, fantastic. But I think sometimes if he's not fully fit, and he's had those concerns, I think, with the back and that type of thing, when he's not fully fit, you can see how much he struggles to cover the ground. And once it leaves the stoppage, gee, he looks slow. So that's the only downside to him. But if he's fully fit, he's definitely in that range. But not someone I've considered. Let me know if you are. But yeah, not one that I've had a look at. Matt Crouch we've got here. Pretty simple. Look, basically, I've ordered these guys by, if you were averaging 105 plus last year, I've chucked you in here. And there's about 6 or 7 afterwards that are under that, but are probably worth considering. So, Crouch, it's a thanks but no thanks. Look, I've been going through the big footy pages for the Crows just to get a bit of read on Isaac Rankin, who's taken the absolute he's taken the absolute piss, by the way, putting on some serious clinics, plenty of midfield time at training. But some of the talk in that big footy is that, you know, does Crouch even fit into the side? I mean, clearly he does play a great role when he's in there, but there is a bit of a moving pieces with this Adelaide Crows midfield because they need a bit of pace in there, and they've had Laird in there for a while, and Sam Berry and Crouch, as these games numbers have suggested, sometimes he's in favour, sometimes he's out of favour, sometimes he's injured, but look, he's very consistent when he's in there, and you know what you're going to get. It's just, I'm more than happy to play around him. So it's a pretty easy one for me. It's thanks, Matt. You're a loyal, consistent player, but no thanks for me. Nick Daicos, who I have had in my side for most of the pre-season before I read this article, which just worries me. Reduced to a modified training load with plantar fasciitis. Now, for me, if he doesn't have that, it's just straight up there. Simple. And we'll pick him a lot in the future, there's no doubt. And there's a chance we still pick him. If he comes out, trains well, dominates a practice match, we'll all be seduced. And I'm not sitting here saying, well, he's got a foot injury, write him off for the year. He could still average fantastically. In fact, I'd say he will. But you'd hate to have egg on your face if you picked him and then he doesn't quite hit his straps and then he has to go into for a break or a surgery or something. And it's like, oh, wow, I should have known that. I mean, we knew he was injured. What an idiot. I think sometimes it's just weighing up the information we have. Like, SuperCoach is hard enough. There'll be times when guys go down with niggles and we hear about them afterwards and we didn't even know. This is being reported. It's big news. So, yeah, you can go with Nick Daicos by all means. But if it comes undone and he has a bit of a down year, an interrupted year, has to miss patches of footy, don't come crying to me, mate. It's been here for days. He is under an injury cloud, which we have seen. It's not just a little hammy or a shoulder complaint. This is an injury that has really torn apart some careers. So, where do I place him? Oh, God, I'm I'm going to place him in there. Like, he's just so good. My main query is not about his scoring potential, because we know what he can do. Like I said, he'd be 120 plus if he was fully fit. Not being fully fit, I think we could see him average, like 115, but it could be across 14 games or 18 games. Who knows? So I don't think he'll play a full season. I think that's something he'll manage, but watch this space. I'm as big a lover of Nick Daicos as there is, but you've got to have a look at what's going on, and that has to be concerning. It just has to be. So would love to hear your thoughts on Nick. Next up is Jordan Dawson, who, didn't make the cut on the average, but did because he was picked in a few percent of sides. A few people have messaged me and said, will he get back to his best where he went 110 plus? A few people thinking, there's probably a bit of meat on that bone if he does. What was it, a couple of years back? Yeah, 116, couple of years back. A definite down year last year, 102. I am finding it really, really hard to pinpoint where he would go. I can see him. My initial thought is here. I think we'll look back and say that 116 was an absolute career bester. Just an insane year, maybe a slight outlier. I think he probably fits around the 110 mark. But I'm almost thinking thanks, but no thanks as well. Similar to what I was saying before with that Adelaide midfield. How does it look and where does it go? Does he go to the back line? We're talking about Laird going back. We're talking about Rankin going in there and Rochelle going in there and needing more pace. And how does it shape up? Where do they best suit and use Dawson? So, thanks but no thanks is a bit harsh. I'm going to put him... even that feels harsh because at his best he's in there. But look, with everything, I'm going to put him in here. I could just see him averaging 107 or 108. I just don't like it when there is moving pieces in a midfield setup. Like the one thing with Bont that we love and Butters and that is when you turn the TV on, you know exactly where they're going to be. You'll see them in the centre bounce. When the game's on the line, get them in there. High centre bounce attendance. Makes me a bit nervy when you just have those premiums sometimes where you're like, oh, I hope they don't just choose to play him forward or, rest him there for a bit or try something different. And I think just with the Crows at the moment, there's a bit of uncertainty about how they look, and it's enough for me to just be a bit scared off and not pick any of their guys that we've spoken about so far. But yeah, again, very keen to hear some of your thoughts because they're definitely proving. I was doing my ladder predictor the other day, or the sports bets wins over and under. Hard to get a read of where the Crows will be. Very tough one to get a read on. So any Adelaide fans out there, give me your 2 cents, please. All right, I reckon we'll be probably going for a couple more players here. Maybe 3 more players. Or, gee, Tom Green will have me talking about him for ages. So maybe we'll do Will Day and Josh Dunkley, and then we'll finish off with these other guys in a part 2 section another day. So, yeah, Will Day, pun intended, but, yeah, obviously he is a guy that doesn't qualify for this list on his average, but does qualify for his potential. Now, I've been all about him. If you've seen me doing any team updates, this guy's featured, and he's one of my favourites. 490. We've seen him average higher than that before, and we've seen him. I talked a lot about him in the Hawthorn preview the other day, but he's averaged 97 before, and he just feels like that guy who is the next generation superstar of the Hawks. I've got a few. But yeah, just one of those next-gen mids of the comp. Now, always dangerous, chopping and changing and taking out games when they're injured and everything like that. But he had a 40 and a 10, both sub-affected. He had a delayed start to the season and started sluggishly. Just look at that. 11 and 12 touches to return. So this is a bloke that is currently training, pre-season going nicely. I can't see how he doesn't go beyond 105. Now, when we took out the 40 and the 10, I think his numbers, they definitely went beyond 100. I can't remember exactly what it was, but maybe we can do that now. But you know what was weird the other day? I was listening to SEN, and they said, talking about Nick Watson's crazy mark, and Will Day was playing forward, or large chunks deep forward. I don't know what to think about that at all. Let's take away, what was it, a 40 and a 10, 50, divide that by 14. So there you go. It takes it up to 100, and then I feel like that's the base, and he's going to develop because he's young. And some people will say, look, shorty, his body's not going to hold up, but I just think we've seen this story before where it's not as though he missed heaps of games in 2023. It was probably last year, but we've seen this story before where young players do take some time to get fully seasoned to AFL week in, week out footy. We saw it with Zack Butters. We once used to talk about him, he just gets thrown around, gets too injured. Look at him now. So I think Will Day will be an absolute superstar at some stage. I'm going to have to dive into big footy to get a read on the forward stuff, but I'd be stunned. I think they would have just been trialling him there just in case they want to rest him forward, a bit like a Petrarca, because he is quite tall. So I could see him maybe going forward like a Dusty or a Petrarca, but not a positional switch. I mean, that'd just be madness because he's their best midfielder, I think. I mean, certainly the most classy, and they need him in there. You know, they've got Newcomb and some other guys that are quality, but I think Day's, he's the cherry on top. So I'm sticking with him. Interested to see how he does go through some practice games, but I think he's huge upside. I think there's some value in that on the price. A lot of upside. I reckon we've got him for an unders at this point. Certainly locked into my team. So in terms of an average, I was talking all this crap and I didn't even put him in a tier group. So I'm going to chuck him in here. And I think he'll out-average Anderson and Dawson. Look, he'll be in and around. I think he's fully fit, running through the guts. He's a 108 minimum type of guy for me. And I can definitely... Look, if it doesn't quite hit that and it's 105, you know, you can handle that. Still an increase, still value. But yeah, that's where I'll place him. Now, Josh Dunkley. Again, one of those fellas that you feel like he's just forever underrated. I think there was a lot of hype from SuperCoach when he was a dog. I think we saw a slightly different role for him as a doggy and some different numbers, but he is super consistent. He's gone 110 plus the last 2 years, was just under that in 22, and obviously went nuts in 2019. But look, he's super consistent. I think we don't always consider him because he's defensively minded, and sometimes we're like, it sort of puts a ceiling on him if he's defensive, but you know, he makes up for it with the tackle numbers, and he's just such a clever clearance player, and he's just part of that mix in there. You know, he averages 6 tackles a game for a long time, always finds mid-20 touches. He actually covers the ground all right, and, you know, averaging 6 marks a game, he does just bob up for those little chip kicks. He's just a quality footballer, does everything very well. Again, a bit like Paddy Cripps, for no real rhyme or reason. I haven't considered him once. And maybe I'm disrespecting him, but look, I'm going to put him in here, but he's right on that echelon of 110. He really does just float right in between these. I feel like Brisbane are maybe not dropping off a cliff, but historically the Premier does start slow, and I'm just feeling like maybe he's someone that's not, at least this year, going to return to 115s and 116s. I feel like 110 is fair and about reasonable, and, you know, I think you could easily mount the case that he'd be in the lower end of this department, but, you know, maybe with a bit of slight drop-off, premiership hangover, whatever you want to call it. I mean, he's the ultimate professional, so probably not, but that's where I've placed him. Would love to hear your thoughts on that one. Bit of a tough one to pick. So we've got, 3, 6, 9, 12. We've got about 15 players to go. We've just ranked however many that is, but we've ranked a few of them. So yes, we'll be back for part 2. Let me know which midfield premiums you're picking at the moment. And if you think I've missed someone that was probably worthwhile talking about, let me know as well. So, yeah, be very keen to discuss the rest of these guys probably some stage next week. But yeah, we'll be in touch. Cheers.